Hi everyone, it's Kimber, the study abroad specialist. In today's video, we're going to be talking about how to choose a study abroad program that actually will work for you and your goals. So welcome back to the channel, everyone. If you are new here, again, my name is Kimber. I'm the study abroad specialist, and I'm here to make your life easier as you begin planning your journey overseas. Go ahead and like this video, share this video, and also subscribe to the channel. Lots of great information on here and more to come very soon. So this is a question that I get from students all the time as they're going through trying to figure out how they find a program. In a lot of ways, this is the hardest part because there are so many different programs and opportunities out there, whether it's going to be through your school, whether you're doing something independently, or whether you're just trying to figure out how do I sort of marry this all together. So that's why I'm here to help you with that. And it's something that I've obviously gone through several times myself. But I know that there are lots of moving parts as you're thinking about how to actually find a study abroad program. And so that's what we're talking about today. So for the first thing that I always like to have students think about, I always like to say to zoom out so that you can zoom in. The first thing is that you want to think about what are your overall goals for study abroad. Now, there are no right or wrong goals with this. For some students, they are interested in doing it because they really have not had an opportunity to travel yet or spend time outside of their home country, and so they want to do it for that reason. For some students, they, let's say, are in a language course already and they want to immerse themselves in the language of whatever they're speaking. And so let's say they are taking an intensive Italian course and they want to spend a semester in Italy. That's totally valid. And then there are some students that they're like, hey, I really just need a breather from school right now. There's a lot of things going on. I want to be able to experience something different. There is no right or wrong answer on this, but I will just say that it's going to be important to sort of know what your goals are as you're moving forward. Now, I know for a lot of you, if you are in college specifically, you probably have study abroad offices on campus and there are officers there that can help you. But I'm also too someone here that's here to support you on that. So one of the things that I want to go ahead and offer you is my freebie, which is my Find Your Perfect Study Abroad Program Guide. This guide has helped hundreds of students from around the world be able to navigate and sort of get out their basic ideas of what they want to find. And within that, you're going to find a variety of information on everything from faculty-led programs to independent programs, how you sort of get started with researching those programs and everything in between. So go ahead and download it. It's below. It's totally free and there's no obligation for anything. But with that being said, goal setting is going to be important to this process because as you are going through, you're going to find that similar to when you are applying to high school, if you're in high school, let's say particularly a private high school or public high school if you're in the UK, or if you are in college or university, what it's going to look like is a little bit similar in terms of the process where you are going to have a lot of applications to fill out. You're going to have to do submitting transcripts potentially. You have to write essays. There's all these different pieces. For some of them, even you have subsidized tests. And so you just want to keep that in mind that you are applying for something and you want to make sure that your goals are aligned with whatever you're doing. And as I was saying before, there's no right or wrong answer, but really get clear on what those goals are. I also have a goal setting sheet below that's also free for you that I think will be helpful for you to go ahead and fill that out. So what are your overall goals, first of all? For the second point, it's going to be what are your academic goals? Now, this is something that is very important for students as you are going through with study abroad because you need to make sure that it fits within your academic program. Number one, making sure that you know the rules between are you going to get academic credit for this? Now, there are some schools, depending on what their particular structure is for how they award credits, that they say that it can only be through their school that they allow you to have credits, or it can only be, let's say if you're at a liberal arts college, it can only be a liberal arts program. So you're going to need to sort of understand what that means for your school. I was very fortunate at my school that they were just willing to accept any type of the credits that I had. Most of them did go towards elective credits, so not towards my core major credits, but they were really open to that. So you just need to understand what your particular school is going to accept and then abide by that. And then again, it's not a total deal breaker. Let's say your school is like, hey, we're a liberal arts college, for example. We are not going to accept this program, but you can take a leave of absence if you feel like this is something that you really, really want to do. You're really passionate about it. I have seen students do that and it's worked out just fine. Just being aware of what those rules are. Also, as well, when you're looking at programs, thinking about how the overall academics of the program fits into what you want to do. Is it something where you're just doing experimental learning and it's not tied to your major or what you want to do in the future? Is it something that you're really passionate about and you can justify how it actually fits into what you want to do in the future? That's going to be very important. So that's definitely something you're going to want to think about as well. The cultural fit is going to be a major one. This is something that I see students get wrong a lot. And there are several reasons for that. So number one, there is I will just say, a romanticizing of travel, of study abroad, of sort of living away in a foreign land. And, as all of us, we're consumers of media, so we see things. And I think now more than ever, you're on TikTok and all these platforms where you're seeing sort of snapshots of, let's say, a locals day in France or Germany. And you're like, that's so amazing. And to a lot of extent, it is. But for cultural fit, this is going to be very important when thinking about your study abroad journey, because you want to make sure that you are going to be a right fit for wherever you're going. And a lot of times, unfortunately, you won't know that in totality until you get there. But overall, you can kind of tell just based on what the overall customs are, what the traditions are, if you're going to be a good fit. So I always like to sort of frame it in this sort of frame of mind. And I think that American students will sort of relate to this a lot. If you are someone who, let's say, and again, this is not a political video, but if you are someone who you're coming from a very blue state and you are someone who leans much more to the left, perhaps maybe going to the Middle East is not going to be the best place for you to study abroad. Not that you can't do it, but it's just that they have very different values and much more traditional, and it may be a major culture shock to you. And again, as an American, I will just say you're not going to go over there and change their values. And if you try to do that, that's very inappropriate. And I just wanted to sort of frame it in that mind. You could also look at it too. Let's say you're someone that you're coming from a place like Germany and you're going to a place in the UK that's going to be a little bit more, off base than what you would do in your country. You just want to think about little things like that. I've seen students experience this, particularly in my graduate courses a while ago, where you have students coming from the UK, from all over, and it's a real culture shock to them when they sort of get there and they're like, oh my gosh, like whether they're coming from a place that maybe was a little bit more restrictive or less restrictive, it took time to adjust. And that is something that's common for everybody, but just sort of thinking realistically of the cultural fit. And again, as I mentioned earlier, this goes for everybody, and this is something that I actually like to get on a soapbox on. So I will just really quickly, and that's about assimilation. It's really, really important. This is something that particularly in the West, we ask people to do in our country. And so it's no different. You need to respect people in their country. You are a visitor in their home. I've talked about this on my visa videos. You need to make sure that you are following the rules, and also too that you're respecting the culture. If you don't respect the culture, no matter where you're going, don't go to the country. That's all I have to say about that. But with cultural fit, it's going to be very important that you take that into account as you study abroad. I realize this video just got very heavy, but I feel very passionate about that because every country has their own unique culture, and those need to be respected. And if you're going to visit a country, you need to respect that. But on a lighter note, just making sure that for cultural fit, you're taking that into awareness and that you really think that through before you go ahead and move forward with applying to a program. So for the next point to make, I realize this probably should have been towards the top, but I wanted to save it towards the end because I think that a lot of times, depending on whatever program you're doing or how you're going to move forward with the program, this particular piece can scare people away at first. And I always feel like you need to sort of look at everything in totality because there are ways to get around the overall sort of initial shock of this. And this is the sticker shock and looking at the budgeting of study abroad. Now, depending on how you're actually going to be studying abroad, whether it's through your college, I know for some colleges, they allow you to take whatever financial aid you have with you to be able to study abroad. For some high school students, maybe you can get some type of funding. It really depends on what you're doing. But for budgeting, this is going to be important, not just for actually looking at what the price of the program is, but also too looking at, for example, the overall cost of what it will cost you once you get there. So starting to look at what exchange rates are, learning the exchange rate, which can be a little bit tricky depending on where you're going, actually understanding how that works, understanding what you might need to budget for. So maybe you're coming from a place, let's say you're here in the US, you're, let's say, in the Midwest, and you're used to driving, or maybe at your school, everything is located on campus. Once you get overseas, you're going to have to take the tram every day or the train, and what that actually looks like, that's an added expense for you that you currently don't have. So you need to sort of learn how to begin budgeting for that. One of the tips that I always like to give students is, once you sort of move forward with your program, and let's say you are 6 to 8 weeks out in particular, you want to start actually living like you're already in your program. Now, not every single day, you don't have to go through the process of that, but especially with the budgeting, if you can begin sort of budgeting as if you would when you're going to be overseas. So starting every day to sort of understand, what does the exchange rate look like? What does something cost on the exchange rate versus at home? And sort of living like that, it's going to help you to acclimate a lot better. It's something that I did in several of my programs, and it was really helpful. Obviously, when I studied abroad, if you don't know, I was in the middle of the global recession, so it was a little bit different and things were up and down, but it's good no matter what the economy is, just understanding, because again, as exchange rates are very fluid, they change all the time. You don't want to obsess over them, but if you can just get an idea of, let's say you are on the Canadian dollar, how many Canadian dollars does it take to make one US dollar? That's going to help you to start getting in the mode, so that by the time you go to the US, you're going to have an opportunity to just sort of flow right in, and you're going to be on your budget. So very important to think about that as well. And that's something that I want you to remember as you're going through and choosing a program. And most importantly, I always like to tell students to look at the complete package of what you're going to be doing when you're studying abroad. So a lot of times students think about the location, which of course is probably a place they want to go. They also think about maybe what they're going to be learning, but you also want to think about some of the other elements too. So for example, are you going just for a semester? If you are, what are you going to have an opportunity to do there? Are you going to do an internship? Are you also going to just be studying? Are you going to be living in a homestay? Are you going to be living in dorms? Are you going to have to find your own housing? How long does your visa last afterwards? Let's say you're studying in the spring semester and then you want to stay for the summer. Are you allowed to do that? I always like to tell students to sort of think of the totality of what is being offered. And again, this is something that you likely weighed for yourself when you were trying to find a college or university, in terms of what are the overall things that I am able to do. For a lot of students, they love the fact when they're studying abroad that they get to integrate themselves into whatever college or university campus that they're at once they're there. That's something that's important for people. For a lot of people, it could be that they have an opportunity to really mingle with the locals once they're there. Maybe there's a lot of programs set up to be able to do that. So whatever your particular sort of scope is, think about the overall package as you're choosing a program. That's going to be a lot more helpful for you. So with that being said, definitely go ahead and download the free guide below. It's going to be very helpful for you. I get feedback on this guide all the time of how it helps students to be able to frame what they wanted to do with study abroad, and even for some of them took them in a different direction than they initially thought. Go ahead and download it below, and I will see you in the next one.